Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome in. We're excited to have you. We'd like to test out the chat today. If you can drop in where you're coming from, that would be great. Right now, I believe the chat is coming to the host and the panelists. So as you guys are trickling in, we'd just like to take a peek, make sure that's still working. Go ahead and drop in where you're coming from. Got one from Sacramento, from CDA, California Department of Aging. Wonderful. Great, it's working. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Great. Hamilton, Ontario. Welcome. Humboldt County. We've got a lot of exciting stuff for you all. We want to make sure that we have enough time for everything. So we'll go over accessibility features in just one more minute. We just want to make sure that you guys have a chance to trickle in. Hi out there, Modesto. In San Mateo, San Francisco. Great. Wonderful. Okay, like I mentioned, we have a lot of material to cover today. We want to make sure that you guys all have enough time to review everything. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in, and I'm going to take over the accessibility features for you guys. So give me 1 second while I share my screen. So again, welcome everybody. This is the Ability Tools program from the California Foundation for Independent Living Centers. Welcome. I'm going to go over some of our accessibility features, but before I do, I just wanted to give a quick audio description of myself and remind our presenter to do the same. For those who are unable to see, I want to make sure that we're covering everything visually on the screen. So my name is Michelle Rosado. I'm an Ability Tools program coordinator here at Ability Tools and CFILC. I'm a Latina woman with fair skin, red hair, thick frame glasses. Today I have a black top on and a brown sweater, and my background is blurred. Okay, now let's get through some of our accessibility stuff. So,
Michelle,
yes.
sorry to interrupt. It looks like this is the notes page. If you had the
Oh, thank you.
yeah.
Okay, let's try this again. Okay, are we at the recording and slides?
Looks great.
Wonderful. Thank you guys. Sorry, I tend to do that a lot. Okay, so our meeting's being recorded. The slide deck and recordings will be automatically emailed out to you all once all the edits are complete. The recordings will be found and archived on our Ability Tools YouTube channel, and our text will go ahead and drop that in the chat for you. So you can not only find today's recording once it's available, but you can also find the other two that we did earlier in the year for Microsoft Word. It was a 2-part series, so you should be able to find the first one is already there. The second one should be there later today. And then again, this one will also be up and running just as soon as we get our transcript back and we're able to upload that information and make sure everything is good on your end. Let's see. So for today, we want to make sure that you're aware of how to use the meeting controls. On the display, you're going to see a little screenshot of the Zoom meeting controls at the bottom of your screen. They might look slightly different than what we have on the screen. It'll start with the participants typically, Q&A, chat, share screen, stop and resume recording, captions, polls, interpretation, raise hand apps, whiteboard. So again, this might look different on your screen depending on what your view is, but all in all, for this meeting, we've enabled Q&A. The chat is available to chat to panelists and to the hosts. And then we've also enabled closed captioning and the raise hand features. All of these are highlighted on our menu bar here in a red circle. In order to access the closed captioning, you can access it by locating the CC icon under the meeting controls, and it's again found on the bottom of the page. You can also use the stream text link, which is also going to be shared in the chat. This is a great option because you're able to enhance the text. You can change the font size and color. And lastly, questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. We'd like to ask that you please try to use the Q&A or the raise hand feature. Using the chat is mostly for links and for sharing information, keeps it a little easier to manage. If that's the only way that you're able to drop your question, we are going to try to check them periodically, but if you see that it's being missed, please try to go back and use the Q&A or raised hand and we can unmute you. And a final reminder for the presenters, please don't forget about the audio descriptions. Keep a moderate pace for our captioners. And we have about 90 minutes today to try to get through everything. So we'll do our best to answer as many questions as possible. Anything that we're unable to answer, we'll also share information in the resources and in the email follow-up, as well as in the chat, where you can direct some of those additional questions to. Thank you so much. And before further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our meeting host or our guest, Peter Wu from Microsoft, for navigating accessibility for Microsoft PowerPoint. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. Really appreciate having the opportunity to talk with you. I'm Peter Wu from Microsoft. I'm Asian male with black spiky hair and wearing glasses. And today I'm going to talk to you about PowerPoint and the accessibility that's built into it. Not just how you can use PowerPoint with accessibility features and assistive technologies, but how you as an author of presentations can create presentations that are accessible to everybody. And it's some material that a lot of people probably don't already know. So it's rather enlightening to learn it and then to put it into practice, to make it something that becomes habit for you. And you learn this new way of creating your presentations so that you can communicate more effectively and inclusively with everybody that you work with. I am going to do a very, very brief overview first of how you can use PowerPoint with the accessibility features and assistive technologies. We covered this topic about Microsoft Word a few weeks ago in another webinar, and that's some great material I'll refer to, and it's mostly the same for PowerPoint. So we'll drop a link to where you can see that. And the handout document that we've provided with today's webinar also includes links to all this information so you can dive more deeply into it. And so what I covered is a few hardware products that you could use together with your device and PowerPoint to make things easier. And these are geared toward people with limited mobility or limb differences and people with that are low vision or blind as well. And the Surface Adaptive Kit provides some things like tactile stickers that you can put on your keys to help identify them, and port labels, um, as well as pull tabs to help you, be able to open your Surface tablet, for example. And then Microsoft Adaptive Accessories are different kinds of mouse and other alternative pointing devices that may be easier for you to use, especially if you have limb differences or other mobility issues that make it more difficult to use a standard mouse, and includes pointing devices in various different shapes, as well as additional attachments that you can 3D print and add to your device to customize it to suit your needs. So the handout has the links where you can learn more about that. And then there are many assistive technologies built into all the major operating systems. And there's also third-party ones that you can buy as well. And there's many accessibility features built into PowerPoint that make it easier for you to use. There's many things that will make it easier for you to see the content on the screen. If you have low vision, including the ability to magnify in a few different ways and be able to see the mouse pointer, the text cursor, and other things more easily, and to change the colors around if you prefer a dark theme instead of a light one. And if you can't see at all, you can use a screen reader with speech or braille as a way to understand the content. And if you have mobility impairments, you could use the keyboard exclusively without having to use a mouse or other pointing device. Or you can use dictation as an alternative to typing, and even voice access or voice control as a way not only to dictate text, but also to control and operate all of the features in the app as well. There's Immersive Reader for being able to read content more easily with different spacing and colors and have it read aloud to you as well. And you can even customize your animation effect setting at the operating system so that there's less of these animations throughout the user experience as you're using the app, in case those are distracting to you. And we also have live captions and subtitles and the ability for the author to add closed captions to videos. And those are things you can turn on and select the track you want while you're viewing a presentation. So that's just a very brief overview of it all. There's links to many articles that dive into the details about how these work. So I encourage you to take a look at that and learn more about these. So I'll pause there briefly before we go into the next topic about how to create presentations that are accessible to people with disabilities.
No questions so far.
Okay, great. So what's really important in the accessibility of the PowerPoint experience is not just the user interface, like the ribbon and the toolbars and such, but it's really the content on the slides that you're trying to share. That's where you, as the author of the presentation, are trying to share that with your audience. And nearly 1 in 5 people worldwide have a disability. Around 70% of them are non-apparent. If you're presenting to any sizable audience, there's a very high likelihood that some of your audience members have disabilities. and you don't even know about it. So in order to make your presentation accessible to everybody, to reach your audience and to communicate effectively with them, you need to take some things into consideration about how the content is created. So I just want to introduce you to a few of the concepts. And you can, once you get familiar with them, you can apply them when you're creating presentations. And like I said, try to make it habit so that this is something you do every time you create a presentation. The first thing I will do is talk to you about a feature in PowerPoint for Windows called Accessibility Assistant. It's brand new. It's just rolled out, and it replaces an experience called Accessibility Checker that's been there since 2010. On the Mac and on the web, we have Accessibility Checker, and the Accessibility Assistant will roll out within the next year and provide you a refreshed experience about how you can find and fix accessibility issues in your presentation. The demonstrations today will focus kind of on the new experience with Accessibility Assistant in PowerPoint for Windows. So I'll just show you what it looks like. I've got a presentation open here, and I can go to the Review ribbon tab and click Check Accessibility. There's also a notification on the status bar that I could click. And it opens up this pane on the right, which has provided me a summary of the accessibility issues in my presentation. There's various categories, and there's a number of issues that it's found in each category. An accessibility assistant can't find all of the accessibility issues in your presentation automatically, but it does find a lot of them. And it's very handy to help you check where you are and if there's some issues that you need to go and address. The workflow that I would like to encourage you to use, though, is that as you learn more about accessibility, you can be proactive and try to design your content in the right ways so that it's accessible. And really, Accessibility Assistant is just then a sanity check to make sure that you've done all the right things, not to be, using it exclusively as the way you find all the issues. And I will show you an important new feature with Accessibility Assistant that really helps you with this process. So there is a switch that says Show Only Issues on Current Slide. So in this presentation, I'm going to turn it on because when I see the list of all accessibility issues in this large deck of 123 slides, it's kind of overwhelming to look at all of that at once, and it's spread throughout the presentation. So when I turn on the switch, I can just focus on one slide at a time. And I see on the first slide, there's just one issue. On the second slide, there's none. And I just go through slide by slide, and I see there's a more manageable number of issues that I need to take a look at. And that way that as I add a new slide and work on it, and then I think I'm finished and I want to move on, I can quickly check in Accessibility Assistant if that slide has accessibility issues, try to address them then, and before I move on. And it's really more effective to be doing it as you go, because now if I take that slide and let's say duplicate it to create some more slides based on it, I've already corrected the mistakes in it, so I'm not duplicating those mistakes and having to correct more stuff later. So it's really great to keep my presentation accessible as I'm building it. So keep that in mind. Show only issues on current slide. And now I'll jump into those different categories of issues with accessibility that you need to address. And the first one I'm going to cover is text contrast, making sure that the text is easy to read when you're using light text on dark backgrounds or dark text on light backgrounds. and yeah, not any combination that doesn't have good contrast, like light on light or dark on dark. Um, Firstly, there's an industry standard around this that says that if the text is at least 3:1 contrast, and it's large enough, like 18 point or 14 point bold, which is what I'd recommend for things on a PowerPoint slide. If you have 3:1 contrast, then it's high enough for a large percentage of the population to read easily. And for any smaller text, you need to have an even higher level of contrast, 4.5:1. And so what I have on the screen are some boxes that just show you examples of what that level of contrast looks like. And like I said, you really want to be pairing light with dark and never dark with dark or light with light. And I'm going to go through a deck now and show you that Accessibility Assistant will find some of the text contrast issues automatically. And so that makes the process of correcting those issues easier. So I'll click this hard to read text contrast box in Accessibility Assistant, and I'll get some color chips of, some suggested colors. I'll also go into the color drop downs and select a color to use, and there's a high contrast only switch. So in that grid of color tiles, only some of those colors were enabled, and that it just filtered it down to the ones that have enough contrast, so I can easily choose one that is going to meet these needs and make the text easy to read. So that's how I can do it. And once I fix one issue, it automatically advances me to the next issue, so I can just do it in rapid succession and fix all the contrast issues on my slide or even my whole presentation. Okay. And one other thing I want to note is that if you start with the blank Office theme, the new one that is in the latest builds of Microsoft 365, um, it has a new color palette, which just makes it easier for you to create content that has enough text contrast. So in this example, I'm just going to insert a shape onto the slide. And by default, it has this kind of dark blue background, and the text is white by default. And the dark blue is just one of 6 accent colors in the theme. And I can choose any one of the other 6 accent colors, and that will also contrast well with the white text
Peter,
at the default font size of 18 point or larger. So that just really makes it easy for me to make sure my content is has enough text contrast. I can use any of those 6 accent colors. If I make my text smaller, then only 3 of the 6 accent colors have enough contrast with the white text. But like I said, I recommend you keep your text on your slide minimal and 18 point and higher, and that way it's really easy for you to meet the contrast requirement.
Peter,
Yes.
I have one quick question. On those color contrasts, how can you tell the high contrast colors on that menu you showed?
Oh, right. So let me see if I can get back to the color drop down and then pause there in the video. Give me a second. Okay, we're going to expand the fill. Okay, so I've expanded the shape fill drop down, and the high contrast only switch is on right now.
Okay.
So all the color tiles that are lit up are the ones that have enough contrast.
Gotcha.
All the
Okay.
ones that are blanked out are the ones that that don't have enough contrast.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Right.
That was one of the questions. They weren't sure if that's what that already meant. Thank you.
Right. And for whatever reason you want to see what those other colors are, you could turn the switch off and then you can see the full color palette. Yeah, and you can see what those lighter colors look like. Great. Thank you. Great question. Okay, so another thing about color is to be careful about color coding information in your presentation. Color coding is actually not a bad thing, and people do it quite often, but you just need to be careful about how you do it. So don't convey information using color alone. If you use color and other means of conveying the information, like shapes and patterns or labels, then that's okay. And I'll show you an example of that. This chart here, this is very common style of chart where I have two different lines on the chart and I have a legend off to the side. The two different lines have different colors and there is a series name, a company name basically associated with each of the series and with each of the colors for the lines in the chart. So to really understand this chart, I need to look at that legend because that's my secret decoder ring here, and associate the colors with the company names. Now, if I'm colorblind and I can't discern the difference between the different colors, it's going to be hard to read the chart. So I'm going to use a tool in PowerPoint that'll demonstrate this more clearly. On the accessibility ribbon at the top of the window, there is a tool called Inspect Without Color. And that helps you to just see what your slides look like if you were to take all the color away and made it just shades of gray. And so I'll click that tool and turn it on, and you can quickly figure out that you can't read the chart. Okay, and so that helps you as the author realize there's a problem here that needs to be addressed. And then next, I'll show you a different way that you could format this chart so that it's still readable, even if you can't discern the colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a data point in each of the line, just the last data point. And then I'm going to add a data label. And by default, the data label includes, shows you the value of that data point. But instead, I'm going to change to show just the series name. In this case, that's the company name. And so I'm going to do that with the last data point on the second series as well. Just do that same process of adding the data label and setting it to show the series name. Okay, and once I do that, now I can clearly read and understand the chart, even without the legend. So the legend is actually redundant at this point. I'm going to delete it because I don't need that. And now, whether it's in full color or in grayscale, we can easily read and understand the chart. So that's just a small difference in how the chart is formatted, but it makes a world of difference in the ability for some of your audience members to be able to read and understand the chart. 8% of males are colorblind and 0.5% of females. So there's actually a lot of people that are impacted by this. So keep that in mind and incorporate this practice into how you create your presentations and your visuals. Okay, now I'm going to dive into making your presentation work well with a screen reader, which is what people who are very low vision or blind would use to understand the content in your presentations. And one of the most important things to do is to take pictures and graphics and make sure that there is a textual representation to go along with it. There's a saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. We're going to try and do it and summarize it into a smaller number of words, maybe 1 to 2 sentences. And just think about when you're doing a presentation, there's a duality between pictures and words. It's actually, your presentation is a verbal medium where you're speaking your words, but you're providing slides, these visuals that go along with it because they can complement your message. And some people are visual learners, so it's going to be, the way that they can comprehend and understand your message more easily. But you also have to cater to people who can't see the pictures, and so that's where the words come in. So you just kind of want to have both, and for both of them to, complement each other.
Peter,
So
I had a quick question.
yeah.
If you don't mind, just before we go to the next section, because I was curious as well, but this came into the Q&A. So when you went back and did the accessibility check with the grayscale on the last graph,
Mhm.
and you labeled them, how would we be able to tell which data line actually belongs to which at the beginning of the chart? It kind of looks like at the intersection they could switch, and so it would be confusing to follow along with that.
Yeah, that is a good point. In the example that I showed, the the right end of the chart had enough separation, so you could easily tell which line is which. So that's where I labeled. But if the right side, if those data points were too close to each other, and on the left side they were further apart, perhaps it'd be better to label on the left side. So that's just kind of a design decision for the author to make about, where's the best place to put those labels, but definitely somewhere near the line so it's clear which is which.
Great. Thank you,
Does that
Peter.
help? Sure. Okay, so back to alt text. I'm going to show you how you can use Accessibility Assistant to find out if there's any pictures or graphics that are missing alt text, and then what the experience is for adding the alt text that you need. So it says missing alt text in the Accessibility Assistant, so I'm just going to click on that, and I'm going to drill in on one of the pictures that's already selected here. And in the box, I'm just going to type in 1 to 2 sentences that describes this content, perhaps the context as well. In some cases, just to help people understand, what kind of content is here. In this case, the chart, I'm going to give a summary of the main point of the chart. That's important. It's not enough to just say it's a chart. And a lot of times you don't want to like list every data value, but you might want to just list out a brief description of what your main point is with the chart. So that's what I've done here. And once I've typed in the alt text for the two graphic objects, now I've gone back to the main page in Accessibility Assistant saying there's no more missing alt text issues, and you're done with that category of issues. Okay, so when you insert new pictures, sometimes PowerPoint will automatically add alt text to the picture using computer vision AI. So in this case, it added a mountain with snow on it, which is not too bad. So I'll show you that. When this happens, this bar appears at the bottom of the picture to show you what that text is. Now that's not text that would show up while you're presenting a slideshow, but just it shows momentarily when the alt text is added to help prompt you to make sure that you know that it's there and to review it to see if it's accurate. And if you need to change it or phrase it in a different way or add additional context, you can go and do that. So in this case, I can click either approve or edit. And since it's pretty good description, I'm just going to go ahead and click approve. It really opens up the alt text pane on the right and shows you that description and that it has been approved. If it hasn't been approved yet, then there will be AI content AI generated content may be incorrect tagline there, and that will help warn anybody who's consuming the content to take it with a grain of salt. But you as an author should really be aware of that and review it. So hopefully it saves you time, but don't skip it entirely in your workflow. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is talk about reading order. When you compose a slide, you probably have in mind that the audience is going to read the content on that slide in a particular order, and you have a 2D canvas to work with. So you could just fill it with text, starting from the top left corner, and just have the text go across the slide and wrap and just kind of in your normal order. But you can get more creative than that and just put objects everywhere. And but people tend to follow this kind of natural order, and like with languages like English, which are left to right, they would start reading on the left and go to the right, and they would start from the top and go down from there. It's not always the case, but that's kind of the most common natural order for the content. Now, the thing is, the order that the content is read by screen reader may not match that visual order on the slide. There is actually another dimension, a z-axis, which is mostly invisible to you as you're composing the objects in your slide. It only comes into play when objects overlap. But you can use a tool in PowerPoint to help you visualize that order that the screen reader is using and see what it's like. And if it doesn't match the visual order, that's not good. But you can make adjustments to that order so that it does align and it makes sense to anybody using a screen reader. So I'm going to walk you through a video here that goes through that process and shows you the tool you should use for that. Okay, and then, yeah, there's captions on the bottom of the screen as well.
A screen reader helps PowerPoint users with a vision or reading disability better understand the slide content. Place content in the intended reading order so the screen reader reads the items correctly. On the Home tab, select New Slide. Pre-existing templates provided with PowerPoint already maintain an accessible reading order. Select a layout, add text, images, and other content. Note, if slide items are rearranged, the reading order may no longer match the visual order. On a custom or modified slide, the reading order may be different from how the items are visually laid out. Users will not understand the content if the screen reader reads the items out of order.
Picture 22. Rectangle 7. Text box 2. Customer-focused approach. Text box 18. Robust product line. Text box 17. Commitment to innovation. Text box 19. 30 years of great customer service.
To set the reading order, go to the Review tab. Select the Check Accessibility drop-down, then Reading Order pane. Group items together with Control-click, then Control-G. Give alt text to the group that helps users understand the content. Items are read from top to bottom order. Select and drag the item to its new spot to match the visual layout order. If an item is not important for understanding the meaning of the slide, uncheck to exclude it. Read the items in the pane from top to bottom to double-check the order. Now, screen reader users will read the slide content in the same order as sighted users.
Okay, so that's a lot to unpack, but basically in PowerPoint for Windows, there's a reading order pane that lets you see the order of the objects as they'll be read by screen reader. And then you can inspect it and then make the adjustments that you need to make that a good order, including grouping, adding alt text, or unchecking items, which means marking them decorative so that they get skipped, and reordering them. So once you've done all of that, you can arrange it in a way that it'll make sense for people reading with a screen reader. And really the important thing is, being able to visualize that, to be able to see what that order is so that you're aware whether you have a good order or not, and make the fixes that you should to communicate your message well.
Peter, is this the same on a Mac?
Um, Currently, the reading order pane is only available in PowerPoint for Windows. On the Mac and on the web version of PowerPoint, there is a tool called the selection pane. And it can be helpful for you to do some of the things that we showed here with rearranging the order of objects. A very important thing to remember if you're using the selection pane, though, is that the objects are listed in order such that they're read bottom to top. So reverse of what you see in the reading order pane. So you just have to kind of keep that in mind. But you can do the same type of drag and drop reordering of objects using the selection pane. And for setting the alt text or setting decorative, there are tools on the ribbon that you can use for that, but it's not kind of all integrated into the pane in one place. So hopefully that helps all the Mac users out there with how to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, and next I'm going to jump into another topic that's really important for making your presentation accessible, which is unique and meaningful titles for every slide. The title is kind of like it's a form of a heading. You typically navigate a presentation by flipping through the slides. And in order to kind of know which slide you're on, the title is really important, so that it gets read by the screen reader as the user's navigating through the presentation. And like just knowing that they're on slide 53 doesn't tell them really where they are, because they just don't remember what 53 is. But if they have a title, then they know, oh, this is the slide on customer service. So keep that in mind. Now, here are some techniques you can use to make sure that every slide has a unique and meaningful title. When you have the Accessibility Assistant open, the accessibility ribbon at the top of the window is also visible. And there's a slide title tool there that is going to help you out with this process. On this slide, I'm going to click the slide title button. And what you'll see is that the title object, it's already there and it gets selected. So that's just a quick way for me to verify that there is a title. And then I figure out, well, I want to make some edits to it to make it a little better, so I can go and make those edits once I know which object is a title. So in this case, it makes sense. It's the big text box near the top. So that all seems very straightforward. Okay, so are there any slides in this deck that are missing slide titles? And what we can do is go into the Accessibility Assistant and check for that as well. So we go to missing slide title, and we can see that this slide is missing a slide title. So it's a little weird because it had that big text box craftsmanship, and that looks like the title. So I'm not sure what the issue is. The funny thing is that just because it's the big text box, it might not actually be the title. It might not be the one that's in the specially designated title placeholder object on the slide. And so the accessibility assistant gave me this set a slide title tool that let me take that selected text box and turn it into the title. And so now, that is the one that PowerPoint recognizes as the title and will be read by the screen reader when you navigate to that slide. And so after I've done that, I've automatically advanced to the next slide that's missing a title. And in this case, it's selected durable text box. And I could do that set a slide title as again, but that's not really what I want to title the slide. Really what's going on is there's a spot at the top of the slide where there used to be a title placeholder. And for whatever reason, I deleted it. And like, now what? How do I get the title back? So you can click the Add Slide Title button, and that will restore the title placeholder. And so once you do that, you can type in, what you want to put there. So I just click Add Title, type in the text, and then click the Approve button. Okay, and that takes me to the next slide that's missing a slide title. Now, in this case, again, the text box that got selected is not really what I want to title the slide. And in fact, there isn't even space at the top of the slide for me to put a title. I kind of designed the slide in a way that I don't want to have, a big banner on it. But it's important to make this slide accessible to include a title. But it doesn't have to be one that's visible, like when you're presenting in slideshow. And so that's why there's another option called Add Hidden Slide Title. So you click the Add Hidden, whoops, sorry about that. You click the Add Hidden Slide Title button, and that will create a text placeholder object that's positioned off the slide, outside the bounds. And now I can see it while I'm editing the slide, but when I present, it's not going to appear. And when somebody is consuming this presentation with a screen reader, it will be read aloud, so they'll know, what this slide is about. So that gives you, a few different options for how you can title your slide and make sure that there's an easy way for people with screen readers to navigate your presentation. Okay, and then I'll move on to the next topic, which is about links. You want to make sure that every link, when it's read, is something that's easy for the screen reader user to understand. Like in this example, I have this link, and it's the display text for it is this URL, and it's really cryptic. So it's not a good way to present the link in the deck, actually. And it's especially bad for screen reader users because they'll hear every character get read out, which is tedious, and it doesn't give them any information. Like I don't know what this links to. So on the accessibility ribbon, you can click the link text button, and this text to display box in the dialog is placed in focus, and that's where you can type in the name for the link. And so that'll be the text that's displayed on the slide, as well as the text that gets read to a screen reader user. So by, in this case, using the title of the document that I'm linking to, Van Arsdale Company Report, now it's much clearer what this link is and what's going to happen when I click on it. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If you are putting a hyperlink on an object, then the alt text of the object gets used as the name of the link. So that's there's two good reasons why you need to put alt text on that graphic object. Okay. Next, I'm going to cover a couple topics about making tables easier for people with screen readers to read. It's helpful to include a header row or column in each table, usually a row, but if your data is in a column major kind of format, then you would have a column header. And I'll show you how some ways you can do that. So I've got a table here, and I can click this Insert Header Row button on the accessibility ribbon, and that inserts a new row and designates that row as the header, and then I can type in what I want in those cells. And in this case, the table has a header, or it looks like it does. It's like it hasn't been designated as the header. And there's a use first row as header command that lets you just take that existing row and turn it into the header. So those are two different options you have for fixing that problem of tables missing headers. And once the table has a header, it just makes it easier for people who are using the screen reader, because when they navigate through the cells, there are keyboard shortcuts they can use to read out the header row or the header associated with that cell, so that they understand where they are in the table and what the meaning of that location means. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. It just makes the table that much easier to consume. And one other tip is that if you're using merged cells and tables, just consider if there are alternatives, if there's a way that you can present the information clearly without the use of merged cells. It's not that merged cells are forbidden or something, or that they can't be read with a screen reader. It's just it is more complicated. So if you can avoid that complexity, it helps people understand the content more easily. And then when it comes time to distributing your content, I know that a lot of people will use PDF format. And the important thing to remember with PDF is that you should save or export as PDF and never print as PDF. Because when you print as PDF, the PDF that's created is not accessible. It doesn't include what are called PDF UA tags that include the semantic information that make the content accessible to screen readers. And when you save or export, there's an option to include those PDF UA tags, and that option is on by default. So if you just do save or export the normal way, you'll get them. And it's no cure that just magically makes your content accessible. You still need to do everything that I talked about earlier about making your content accessible in PowerPoint. And then that accessibility that you put into the content gets preserved when you save or export in this way. So I'll just show you quickly where to go. In PowerPoint for Windows, you can do save or export. I'm going to use export in this case, and it's create PDF XPS document. And there's a reminder for you to make sure your content is accessible first. And you go there, and there is an options button, and there is a document structure tags for accessibility checkbox, and that's checked by default. Just make sure that you never uncheck that. And then when you export your PDF, it will contain the necessary tags. And if you're on the Mac, this is what it looks like. You can do export or save as. And when you're choosing PDF as the format, best for electronic distribution and accessibility option is selected by default. And that's the one you want to use to include the PDF UA tags. And in the case of the Mac, the export of that presentation is happening in an online service. So you'll need to make sure that you have internet connection in order to do that. Okay. Any questions on that so far?
Hey, Peter, we've got quite a bit of questions
Oh, great.
that have kind of raked up.
Great.
Would you want us to save them? They're from the last few slides and sections. Would you want us to save them till the end, or did you want to try to get to those now?
I think it's good to cover them now. Yeah.
Okay,
Before we go.
so starting back a little bit farther, starting at reading order.
Mhm.
When you read through with the screen reader, is there a way naturally in PowerPoint to test that reading order for the author and kind of hear how it goes?
You can, of course, run a real screen reader. Um, that is it's something that, I mean, that's how you would be very thorough to make sure it's a really good experience. But I will say that there's a bit of a learning curve to that if you're not a regular screen reader user and you haven't gone through that learning curve yet. Um, so what we recommend is just that you read the content as it's listed in the reading order pane and make sure that that makes sense. That when it's read in that order, um, somebody can understand the message on that slide. So that's kind of our proxy for it, and that's a little easier, I would say, than running an actual screen reader.
And then, do you have any recommendations on if you were to run a real screen reader, how to go about doing that?
Yes, yes. So in the first part of the presentation where we just skimmed over a lot of accessibility features and assistive technologies used with PowerPoint, the screen reader was one of those. And there is a free screen reader built into every major operating system. And there's a tutorial with that. So that's a easy way to get started to learn the screen reader. Just use the one that's built in to the operating system. And in Windows, it's called Narrator. On the Mac, it's called VoiceOver. And the handout document that I have gives you links to that, so you can learn more about it there and learn how to turn it on and operate at least some of the basic features in it. So yeah, have a look at that. But like I said, it is a bit of a learning curve really to master using the screen readers. So if you want to take that time, go down that path and learn more about that.
Awesome. And then for hidden titles, do those we're assuming, do those not get printed on the PDF version?
Yes, they're not included in the PDF. Um, there is an issue with them not being included in the tags currently. We are aware of that and looking to come up with a solution. Well, they'll be included in the tags even though they are not. It's not visually there on the slide.
Great. All right. Just we have a few more. How do you make QR codes accessible? Do you have any insight on that?
Oh, that is a great question. I guess it depends a bit on like what your goal is with the QR code. Um, it's an interesting way to like make a link that somebody can click in this kind of by just visually seeing the content with the camera on their phone or whatever. One thing I would recommend is just making it large, especially in the context of a PowerPoint slide. Um, the audience is not necessarily sitting 10 inches from the screen. They may be like at the back of a room, and maybe there's poor lighting in the room and such. So there's various reasons why, a small QR code on the slide may be very hard for somebody to scan. So the larger the better, is just one piece of advice I would give. If somebody's blind and trying to scan a QR code, you know, that could be challenging. They just don't even know which direction to point. There are some apps that help with that, like they'll give you some sonic feedback about, you know, if you're lined up properly, things like that. So it is possible for them to scan a QR code. It's just and like I said, the bigger you make it, the easier it's going to be for them to do that.
Great, thank you. I have one from the graphs. I'm sorry, Tracy, I missed that one right after I had asked. When doing the two lines, is there a way to make them dashed, maybe to differentiate?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's another great way to make them differentiated. It's really a design choice on your part, whether you want to use the line styles or direct labels. Another option is what are called data point markers. Like, so for every data point, if I put X's and O's or other shapes, triangles, that could help differentiate them, just something other than color. And like I said, it's kind of a design choice. You can try out the different options to see which one you like the most and which one you think is most effective for the chart that you have.
Great. And then last question, it's kind of a two-parter, but they go together. Would a screen reader label a text as a link? And so on that same regard, could the text, quote unquote, hyperlink be included for ease of understanding? The text that contains a hyperlink, for example, if it says Van Arsdale ... hyperlink, is that helpful? Would it label it that way? What would you
Oh,
advise?
yeah, that's a great question. You don't need to say that it's a link. So one thing the screen reader does is it knows the type of content as well as the name or label of the content. So for a link, the screen reader will typically say link and then the name of the link. So you don't need to be putting the word link into the name as well. That's redundant.
Gonna hear a lot of links. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, great. Did that cover everything?
Yes, we are caught up.
Awesome. That's a great set of questions. Glad everybody's engaged and thinking about this. Okay, so that's kind of, we've gone through how to make things accessible for screen reader users. There's just a couple more topics about the accessibility of the content, and then I'm going to get into presenting. So another thing to consider with your content is making it accessible to people who are deaf or hard of hearing. If you're using any audio or video in your presentation, which is a great way to engage people, you want to make sure that if there's any dialogue or important sounds in the video that you caption them. So I'll walk you through some options for about how you do that. Um, so with videos, um, you can do what's called open captioning, which is where you render the words right into the pixels of the video. So no matter how you play the video, those words are going to show up. So that's one way of doing things. The preferred way of captioning videos is to use a technique called closed captions, where the captions in the video are separate streams, and the viewer of the video can choose whether they're on or not. So some people prefer not for them not to show up, and others prefer for them to show up. And you can even have multiple tracks. So you can have like English and Spanish, for example. And these the captions, they're separate from the video, but they can be in the same file as the video. They can be encoded into the video, and that's typically how a TV broadcast would work. But on the internet and in the digital space, it's really more convenient and the more widely used way of captioning videos is for the captions to be in completely separate files from the video. It's just easier to deal with that way. And that's what I'm going to demonstrate today, which is in PowerPoint, you've inserted a video, like an MP4 file here, and you can insert the caption file that's separate and associated with the video. You just select the video, and on the playback tab of the ribbon, click Insert Captions and select the caption file. So you can select multiple if you want. And then those will show up in the video player. And when you play the video, you'll see the words.
Brian is somebody everybody should know. He's just witty and funny and likes to tell a lot of jokes, a lot of dad jokes.
I used to bite my nails, but thanks to ALS I don't anymore.
Okay, so the viewer of the video can select whether the captions are showing and which caption track, if there's multiple of them available. And so these caption files, they need to be in WebVTT format. We also recently added support for SRT format. So you use one of those two formats, and then you author your captions however you want. There's many apps and services that can do that type of thing. And once you have those files, you can insert them into PowerPoint and associate them with the video. The next thing I'm going to do is show you in PowerPoint for the web currently. That's the only version of PowerPoint that has this yet. The whole process of creating the captions can be done end-to-end within PowerPoint. So you don't need to use any other app. And I'll show you the whole process here. So you select the video and you can choose Edit Captions, and it opens up a pane where you can generate captions from any number of languages. I think there's 63 languages that are supported. And it happens fairly quickly. You can caption a 2-hour video in about 3 minutes. You just wait a bit here for the speech recognition service to run and generate the captions. And when it's done, it'll appear in the pane. And so that lets you review it and see how well it turned out. Speech recognition is not perfect, so you'll want to go and take a look at it and see if any refinements to make, corrections, and also adding some additional context. And so I'll show you a bit about some of the editing that you can do and what are some important things to be putting into the captions. So one thing that's important is the name of the speaker. In the case of this video, there's multiple different people speaking, so we'll put in their names. And as I'm doing the editing, each time I click into one of the boxes, what's called a text cue, we'll see a preview of it playing. The video will play and the text cue will appear on the video. And so we will see in real time, what it is we're editing. So I'm going to click into the first text cue and add the speaker name.
Brian is somebody everybody should know.
So I can just type that there. And then when I'm done, I can click the play button to preview it.
Brian is somebody everybody should know. He's just witty and funny and likes to tell a lot of jokes, a lot of dad.
And I can apply some basic formatting like bold, italic, and underline. And then preview.
He's just witty and funny and likes to tell a lot of jokes, a lot of dad jokes.
I used to bite my nails, but thanks to ALS I don't anymore.
The text isn't quite accurate there. So, but I can make corrections. So I'll first add the speaker name and then I'll go make corrections to the text. I'll actually kind of consolidate.
I used to bite my nails, but thanks to ALS I don't anymore.
Oh, somebody's laughing. Okay, so that's kind of important to the story of the video. So I'm going to add that description of that sound so that the viewer of the video knows that it's there.
And he was like, I hate to tell you, but this is ALS. We were definitely not ready. Like my heart.
So really emotion in her voice there. So I'm going to describe that as well, because that's kind of important to the story of this video.
We were definitely not ready. Like my heart.
Okay, so those are some of the edits that you can make, and you can do that all within this caption pane in PowerPoint. You can also optionally add a label to your track, your caption track, in case the language isn't enough to describe that track. And then, once you're done making these edits, if you want to provide some additional languages, you can do that quickly by choosing Translate Captions and then choosing from one of like 76 languages that's supported. And the translation.
Brian is somebody everybody should know.
And again, you can review and edit for accuracy. And then you can see your two tracks here. You could reorder them or remove them, or do any kind of additional edits on those tracks that you want.
Peter,
Okay,
we have
so
a
that's
really quick question that's relevant to what you were
yeah,
just saying.
sure.
They were wondering how accurate those are. I know for certain platforms it can be quite biased when it does do the translations. Are the translations on PowerPoint pretty accurate?
I will say that in my experience, have been pretty good. One thing I know is that it is better with more highly used languages, just because there's more data to train on. So we do recommend that you review the results, and you don't have to use the feature if you feel like you are better off translating manually. You could do that as well. But if it is helping you and saving you time and at least giving you a head start, then you can use it and in that way. And certainly, like I said, the major languages that have a lot of data to train on, I found in my experience to be quite accurate. And sometimes it's just a matter of like dealing with specialized terminology or acronyms, or those are kind of things that it might trip up on.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yep. Okay, so that's captions in PowerPoint. Now I'm going to get into the topic of presenting. Once you're done creating your deck, there are some important things to keep in mind when you're presenting to make sure that people with disabilities will understand your message. So when you are using PowerPoint for Windows, Mac, or web, we have live captions and subtitles when you present. This is to take what the speaker is saying, and the microphone on the computer will listen and do speech recognition in real time to place captions on the screen. Now, if you can hire a professional captioner for your event, that is absolutely what we recommend that you to do. But if for any reason that's not practical for you, or you're not able to, live captions is a alternative that you can easily use when you present, and it's really easy to turn it on and provide that for your audience. So when you present, when you go to the slideshow ribbon in PowerPoint, you have an always use subtitle checkbox. That's if you want to have it on every time you run slideshow. You don't have to turn that on if you don't want, but even if you don't, if once you start slideshow, you can toggle it on. And there's some various settings that you can control before you start or during the presentation. So once you're in slideshow, you can toggle on live subtitles.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to show you how our partnership will help us win.
And the words appear as you speak. And you can choose the position of the words, whether it's overlaid on the slide or docked outside the slide. You can choose the language that it's displaying in, and it can be different than the language that it's listening to the speech in.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to show you how our partnership will help us win.
So I'm speaking English and it's translating to French in real time. Okay, so really easy to use, and that's something we really recommend when you're presenting with PowerPoint. Now, to take things a step further, really, with making your presentation accessible as you present, PowerPoint Live in Teams is the most inclusive way to present. If you are doing remote presentations like the one today, this is a great option because you're already, if you're conducting your meeting or webinar or whatever in Teams, PowerPoint Live is a different way to share the presentation than screen sharing, which is what we're using today. But we'll see video clips of how you can do PowerPoint Live in Teams and what additional capabilities it provides. And keep in mind that like at my workplace, at least, we do hybrid presentations, which is that we will have people gathered in a conference room together in person and looking at a projector screen, but it's still done over Teams because we have remote attendees in addition, and those remote attendees can get the rich experience via Teams as well. And some of the people that come in person even bring their laptop and they can participate on Teams in that way as well. So let's watch a quick video that walks you through what PowerPoint Live in Teams is all about.
PowerPoint Live provides a more engaging and inclusive meeting. There are two ways to share your presentation in PowerPoint Live during a Teams meeting. In PowerPoint, select Present in Teams. Or, in the Teams meeting, select Share. Then, under PowerPoint Live, select the file you want to present. The audience sees your slides, and you see Presenter View, which includes speaker notes, slide thumbnails, and other tools such as navigation buttons, laser pointer, inking tools, and layout to adjust the way your camera feed interacts with your slides. You can choose Content Only, Standout to place your camera feed on top of your slide, or Cameo to put yourself into the presentation. You also see your audience's camera feeds, chat, and live reactions. PowerPoint Live allows each member of the audience to choose how they interact with the presentation, without affecting the views of the presenter or other attendees. Use the navigation buttons to move forward or back in the slide deck. Select Sync to Presenter to return to the live view. You can select hyperlinks on a slide to open them in a browser. And you can privately control video playback and volume. Accessibility tools give you a customized view without impacting anyone else's experience. Use a screen reader to narrate the slide for you.
Slide 2, our big idea. Our coffee shop's mission is to become the recognized leader in
View slides in high contrast to improve readability. Or select Translate slides to read in a language of your choice. Each attendee can choose their own language. If you're co-presenting, select Take Control and begin your part of the presentation.
So if you're used to screen sharing, and that's the main way that you've been experiencing presentations in remote meetings, then PowerPoint Live is a completely different animal. Every attendee can customize the experience and see it their own way, which is really magical. And that means, one attendee could be in high contrast mode, another one could be using a screen reader, another one could have translated to German. Another one could have turned on closed captions on their video, and no one else in the meeting knows. These people can do it very discreetly to suit their needs. And so if you present in PowerPoint Live in Teams, you're providing all that flexibility. And you still need to do all the stuff I talked about earlier about making that deck accessible, because that will show through and be important for the whole experience to work right in PowerPoint Live in Teams. This video didn't show you closed captions on videos. I'll show you that quickly in Teams. So here's an example of it.
I have a video I want to share with you. If you need captions, click the CC button in the lower right corner of the video. Each one of you can control the captions for yourself.
Brian is somebody everybody should know. He's just witty and funny and likes to tell a lot of jokes, a lot of dad jokes.
I used to bite my nails, but thanks to ALS I don't anymore.
Okay, so that is what it looks like for the participant to be able to turn on captions and choose their caption track on their own, even if the presenter forgot to do it. So it gives them an unprecedented amount of control of the experience. Now, Teams itself has live captions and cart captions. That's another option where a human captioner can join the meeting, and what they type will feed into the captions pane in Teams. So there's an easy place to find them. And so you have either option within Teams, and you can do that within any meeting. It doesn't have to be PowerPoint Live. And there's also a feature called Sign Language View, which allows you to set up a meeting in such a way where certain designated translators are known, and those videos will be shown at a large size and at high fidelity, so that participants who rely on those sign language translators can easily see them during the meeting. So a lot of great accessibility features within Teams, as well as PowerPoint Live within Teams, to really make this an accessible and inclusive experience for everybody. One more thing that's not shown in the video is also that each attendee can magnify the content of the slides. So zoom in and pan around in the content if needed. The presenter can also zoom and pan, and when they do that, all the audience members will follow along with the actions that they're doing. And if an attendee wants to customize and do their own zooming, they can also do that. So a lot of options to control the experience. So I will pause there again for questions. Let me know what's on your mind and what else I can do to help you understand accessibility in PowerPoint.
Right now, there's no questions in the Q&A, but we'll give folks a couple minutes if there's anything that they want to throw in here. Okay, here we go. Is there a cost for cart other than the company person actually typing?
So yeah, the only cost is to the provider directly. Yeah, the provider themselves is not free, but Microsoft doesn't charge you anything for a card.
Okay, and they gave you a thumbs up. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions you want to throw in the Q&A or the chat really quickly? Do you have any more sections to go over, Peter?
That's all the content I have. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Good. We're almost at time. We're at 3:24 right now. So let's see. We've got one in the chat. What would be incredibly helpful is if sometime we could create a test document at the same time, So if Peter can demonstrate how to select all of these different accessibility settings, it's all excellent information. Since I'm learning it for the first time, I'm struggling a little bit that I can remember it all. So she's doing her best. Great feedback, Kelly. I think we spoke before about Word, Peter, and maybe having
Mhm.
like a focus group. So we can throw in some information. Kelly, if you want to email us your contact information, we can follow up after the call and see if you might be interested. That would be great.
Yeah. So I mean, we discussed one topic was that we could have a feedback session if you want to tell us about your experiences, and we'll get into like what we could change in the product to make it better. That we'd love to hear from folks that are interested in going into a deep dive like that with us. There's also maybe a separate topic here about just getting practice and learning and just having more training, and maybe in the form of a workshop where it's not just me telling you about it, but maybe you doing it in real time as well, so that you can start to learn the process and ask questions as you're going along and trying to put it into practice. And I'm game for setting up something like that if you are. So let me know if something like that sounds interesting to you.
Yes, it looks like you have a few folks already volunteering for a workshop. So
Okay,
one of the
great.
things we would like to do is send out a follow-up email, and in that email we're going to embed a survey. We'd really appreciate you folks answering some of those questions for us. It's going to have follow-up information for like this focus group that we chatted about and a couple more questions. So when we send the link for the recorded video and the slides and the attachment, please take a quick peek. It shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes to review, probably under. That will really help us out. We'll need that contact information, and then we can all check in separately and kind of see when the best time to schedule something like that would be. Wonderful, and you're getting great feedback. A lot of folks are interested, I think, here.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and everybody's really appreciative of the training. We have one question here that's how can I screen share with JAWS? I think that might be something that we need to take offline because that's not necessarily something for Microsoft, but we can follow up with you, Rick, and we'll be happy to do so after the call. Let's see.
I will note that if you're using Teams, PowerPoint Live is a great alternative to screen sharing for a lot of scenarios. And this screen reader support of being able to read the slide contents works with JAWS. So that's something to keep in mind.
Perfect. Thank you. And then one other suggestion is sometimes we do office hours like for our internal systems. And that's where advocates can kind of bring in a live scenario of what they might be working on. Might be another way that we can tackle maybe issues that a consumer is having or an advocate is having. And that you can kind of allow for free time. I don't know if that's something that you want to share time with us, but that's a great suggestion. If it's possible, then we can always kind of talk with you, Peter, offline and see if we can schedule something like that where they can just essentially it's just a drop-in time. So they would schedule out kind of like the focus group, but you're available, let's say, for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and they can drop in any time within that time frame and bring in a scenario. So if we have enough interest, it might be best to do the focus. But if not, yeah, we can see if there's some other avenues that we could bring that to get the support. The other thing I did want to mention before we let you go is from what we had on our last call is there are follow-ups that they can do. They can log in and they can check onto some of the links that you had shared on the worksheet. Do you want to just quickly walk them through what's available and we'll drop those in the chat?
Oh, You mean things like the support link
Yes,
and
yes,
things like
yes.
that? Oh, sure. Let me see if I can do that for you. I'm gonna stop my screen sharing for a
Okay.
moment.
Oh, we can drop it in the chat for you. If you just know their names, we can go ahead and throw the appropriate one in there.
Yeah, it's so I've put it into the chat. Is that something everybody can see?
Yes, I think so. So we have the Join the Microsoft 365 Insider program. Then you also have a link here for submit feedback within the app.
Mhm.
So it's under help, ribbon tab, feedback, for support, contact the Enterprise Disability Answer Desk. And then do we have another one? And then check out the Microsoft Ability Summit. You have another link on there.
Yep.
No dates for that one yet, right, Peter? I
Oh,
don't think
I
I saw
don't know off the
anything
top of
yet.
my head, but I believe it's in March.
Okay.
So that's an annual conference, and it's open to the public, and it's free to attend. It's an online web conference, and it's really fantastic event with lots of great speakers lined up each year, and it talks about a lot of activity that Microsoft's doing in accessibility. And you can see the YouTube channel with the recorded videos from last year's event. And then the live event, like I said, I believe is coming up in March.
Perfect.
So stay
Perfect.
tuned.
March is a busy month for
Yeah.
our AT advocates and all these expos and conferences. So we'll keep an eye out. And if we see any invites or anything updated on the website, we'll definitely share with the group here. So I think at 3:31, I think we're gonna go ahead and call it. I don't see any more Q&A or anything in the chat, but we appreciate Peter. We love having him. It's a really great information. I know there's gonna be lots of questions and follow-up, so we'll definitely keep in touch, Peter. Thank you again so much for all of your help. And everyone's saying so amazing. Thank you so much. And again, the links and all the follow-up information will be in email. So keep an eye out for those. If you'd like to take a look at our YouTube channel, remember those recordings are automatically uploaded and you guys will all get a link with that information, but you can also drop and see any of Peter's older webinars on there as well. We have the part 1 of Word and part 2 should be going up later today. So if the gals will drop in the Ability Tools channel, that would be great. There it is, Ability Tools YouTube channel. So I urge you guys to follow along because you can go back to some archive videos and take a peek. And it's really helpful. So thanks everyone again for joining. We wish you a great afternoon. Happy New Year. And thank you again, Peter. Have a great day.
It was great talking with everybody today. I'm really thrilled that you took the time to learn, and hope to stay engaged with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Take
Thank
care.
you.